Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Make sure you subscribe to all three channels. We've been in still moving mode, so thank you guys for patience. Yes. Lots of ideas are formulating. Yesterday I put something on while we were cleaning and moving. And I was listening to it. Many of you guys might know the Mind Unveiled channel, which is, it's just a fun channel in that they go deep into some really off-tangent topics, mostly Tataria, things like that. And we were like 50 minutes into a video, just having it going in the background while we're in and out of the room and stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, it doesn't sound like he's wrapping this up at all. And then I went and looked. It's 10 hours long. And I love that. I love that. I know 10 hours terrifies people. And there were a lot of comments that were saying, 10 hours. But we love what you did, because when you start from start to finish, the people said there's no way you can deny this. And so in my mind, at some point when we are settled in, we'll do something sort of similar, maybe not 10 hours in one shot. Cindy's looking at me like, give me pillows and give me a blanket, because it's going to be just so daunting. And I don't know, how much espresso he drank doing that video. But at the same time, there is so much evidence out there. It's just like if you had a nonstop evidence channel that never shut off, and you just hand the mic to the next person and then they're rolling on, we could go on forever. Somebody else, was making a statement about, domes, and there's no alien life out there. And I was like, I think I commented something like it would take thousands of hours to cover, and it really would, all the info that we have. And the thing is, most people don't give anything too much attention because you're just too busy. Again, working to struggle to pay the bills, the food, the heat, the cooling, your oil prices, gas prices are all going to be going up more now. It's just basic stuff. Who has the time? Well, that's what they're counting on.
Definitely. They want us to have those TikTok mentalities. So if you hear something, and just because maybe it resonates a little bit doesn't necessarily mean it's true. You need to go deeper, and you need to find that deeper understanding within yourself. And that takes a little bit of time to evolve. So you don't want to just jump into information and say, oh, this feels good, this is right. Because it could also be, it might be feeling good and feeling right because you wanted something different, or because you're loyal to someone who has that information. But we have to stop and check within ourselves to see if that information is really working.
Yeah, absolutely. So Heart's Home is getting close to its first 100 videos, and there are 3,000 videos up between the channels, just so you know. And that's only a fraction of what we have put up. And so, if you do subscribe to Patreon and Ko-Fi, or if you are so inclined, we appreciate it and all. We've been doing this since 2017 with all the craziness. And when I think about it, 2017, I started the channel like right after the big eclipse. And so, in one way you could look at it like, hey, we're here for the tribulation with you guys. Thank you for coming with us on this ride. Destruction of a hydroelectric powered plant dam in Ukraine, which is now, flooding out the local area. And I was reading comments by the locals, and this type of act where everything is getting washed away, houses are being washed away, farm animals are being washed away. We talked about Ukraine is, it's been termed the breadbasket of Europe. There's a reason why there's, all this chaos going on in Ukraine. Again, it's all about making it so humans have to go through the power structure to get your basic needs to survive. It's just that simple. And again, depleted uranium shells being spread. It's all about toxicity and poisoning and creating division and hatred, which they so obviously do. There's one person that came out into importance, let's say, during the plague upon the land, a certain doctor with 3 names. And, I've been kind of posting things on his feed, whenever he makes comments. He was getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views. He gets like 26 views now. People are waking up. This is the thing we should take heart about. As they wash away people's homes, as they wash away everything that we have, and they're banking that this is going to push you into the, what we call them, cell cities. We feel that that's what they are called by the controllers. Smart cities, 15-minute cities, cell cities is the term we got. This is part of the why. Make it so that humanity will obey. And you could go into the Bible and see where the same system of control has always been here. If you look to Chronicles and you look to Judges and you go through these cycles of, humanity strayed from, who. And then there's punishments, there's floods, there's famine, there's pestilence, there's disease, there's all sorts of things. Now, a common way of looking at that would be that, that's just karma. You go against the big one and, the big G, and negative karma is going to come right back at you. And yeah, there is a law of cause and effect, but there's also been this control system in place for thousands of years. This is the part that people are going to have a hard time with. Yeah, you could easily say, I believe that there's a deep state that's doing this. There's a secret government behind the government. But when you bring out in the extraterrestrial, interdimensional part of it, it starts to become too much for people to handle, too much for people to process. And, some comments are we living in a prison planet? And yeah, in a way, yes, absolutely. We're under a dark control system. And here you go. This is a massive, massive catastrophe as this floods through. This happens to be in the area that could end up affecting that power plant, that NUKE power plant that we've been talking about, that the guides have said that they're just targeting this one way or another, because ultimately, they want to make this area a no-grow zone. There's going to be no-grow zones, no-go zones. And yeah, it might look like there has been a NUKE war. I do think they will, put it out there that there's been some sort of limited exchange. And, you're no longer allowed to go to these areas. And these certain areas across the globe, different countries, will be off limits. And this is part, again, of the plan. Well, you got to go over here now. So everybody's going to be pulling up, mass migrating into these cities where there's absolutely no privacy. You're just basically a slave. And so thousands evacuated as this massive wall of water surges through Ukraine after this dam was blown up. And by the way, of course, both sides blame the other. There you go. What else are they going to do? But ultimately it's like playing chess with yourself is what it is. Because, we understand, and more people, take heart in that, are waking up. And this means that we're going to start going through some of the roughest patches. Because as we wake up, it becomes more dangerous to them. And this article does talk about how this is the Dnieper River. This is a famous river. And it is one of the most important rivers in the area. And in fact, Alois and others have cited this river and talked about this area in regards to WW3. So, again, it's not unexpected. There's 80 settlements in this region that are in flooding zones. So, you got so many people that are impacted by this. Not that they aren't already impacted by the bombs dropping about them every single day. And this causes hatred, built-in hatred. I was reading comments where people are saying, again, the only good Russian is a bleep Russian. Oh yeah, this is why hatred happens, and because yes, there is real pain and suffering, and of course there you go, wheat futures soared. There is real pain and suffering, and it stays. It stays. People remember this, and if they don't understand the whole scenario of what's going on, they're just simply going to take the route that they've been sold, and they're just going to blame it on the other guy, on both sides. And we have so many NATO warships in the Baltic right now. It's absolutely crazy. We talked about it, the wargaming going on by both sides. So here you see all the red and there's blue around it. This is not a good scenario. Again, look at this. The war could happen at any moment. I mean, and when we say that, we mean outright open firing, American ships firing on Russian firing on American, Chinese coming in, 30 some nations coming in and getting involved, maybe more than that. Eventually this is going to impact the entirety of the world, but I don't think it's going to last forever. But at the same time, as some have prophesized, it can be worse than the first two combined. Ukraine's population close to half the level of 1991 when it declared its independence. That's when Ukraine came into existence as an independent nation in these more modern times. It was 52 million at the time of the declaration of their independence. Now it's down to 29 million. This article brings up things like the fact that people aren't having kids and fertility rates are going down, as well as life expectancy is declining. All the usual things, plus people just leaving the area. I wonder why.
Yeah, I know. And this is a time where we have to look at our own surroundings and decide, well, what do we want? What do we want for ourselves? What do we want for our children? And passing very valuable information on to our children is something that I feel that we have found ourselves in as well, because as we know, when we're looking at events that go on online, we're not usually getting the exact right. We're getting whatever they want us to think is really what we're getting. But what about your local area? What about your life? How have things turned you upside down? What decisions have you had to make just to remain free? I mean, if we all keep stepping down the path of technology, so technology can make our lives more convenient, I think that right there is the entrapment. So we have to learn to peel ourselves away from that technology little by little. And because we're so entrenched, most of us need it to work and for work, school, so many other things. They've really locked us in to needing this technology, but we have to find ourselves in a space where we can work with other people physically hand to hand, so we don't need an external source to keep us propped up. That's where we find ourselves. And I think it's a fascinating time in the sense that families are getting to know each other because they are home more often. It's just we have to break away from that other false element that's giving us a sense of security, because it's somebody else's sense of security. It's not us making it our own.
Absolutely. So as we go deeper into this cycle, we see the same old topics coming up again and again.
Oh yeah. cut your cow numbers to help meet these commitments. And this is a theme that's going over and over, and this is something very real despite all of the pushback from the public. Don't you see that the wheels of this monster are treading forward regardless of how much pushback? I mean, what does that tell us?
Yeah, and France has pushed back. I mean, there's been several million people in the streets at one time from what we've seen with these protests, especially over the pension reform, because basically, again, you're going to be a working slave for another 3 years or whatever it is. Here you have in France 17 million cattle, not favorable to the climate. Yeah, well, how about the geoengineering? And so, I've noticed more trolls popping up on Twitter that are pushing the climate change thing. And so what I do, and maybe you guys want to do it too, is I'll always grab a little, maybe 2-3 sentence blurb from somebody that's exposing it, cut and paste it, put it right on the person that's trying to push the agenda. And I was doing the same thing with that doctor who was, all about ouchies. And so, doing the same thing, cut and paste here. Okay, here's 2 or 3 sentences that show the negative side. And, these people's, they're being totally exposed. This is why we are so close to that all-out big war and other major events that may be coming, because the exposure is just, it's getting to be obvious to more and more people. Yeah, French farmers not asked for their opinion, neither were they in the Netherlands and so many other countries, that they're just going straight ahead. It doesn't matter what the people, the illusion that we have any choice is going away. And that will lead to eventually what also has been prophesized, that the power structure will be overturned. And, they will end up backtracking into these cell cities and salvage what they can. They want everything. They're not going to get everything. A lot of people are going to, they're going to endure the harder times, and they're going to live, with nature. And, they will end up in the long term living healthier, better lives and freer, absolutely, as the WHO and the EU announced partnership creating global system of digital, passports. Yeah. So, I think there's going to be a lot of sledgehammers that come out and are going to be smashing exactly what you see on the screen there, as well as everything else. You could get yourself right now a 50-inch smart TV for like $200. This technology has gotten so cheap because, again, they could turn it on anytime they want. They could listen to everything we do. They could video everything we do. This is the reality. And in fact, things that are supposed to be illegal are being upheld in courts of law, going directly against, this country's constitution and amendments, because, that whole illusion doesn't matter anymore. It's all going away. It's all being exposed. This is the great reveal, the big apocalypse. American Airlines struggles with pilot deficit, grounds 150 aircraft because they don't have enough pilots. If you go forward, and by the way, ouch was mandatory, When they look to 2032, where was that stat? Their deficit is going to be 80,000 pilots by 2032. Now, what did we see when we remote viewed and Cindy was contacting the kids in 2055? Well, even earlier in 2055, there are no human planes in the air. There's no free traveling between cities. When you're in one of these cell cities, you're in one of these cell cities. That's it. That's where you're probably born. That's where you're going to end up being recycled, or whatever it is they're going to do. Look to the movie Cloud Atlas for ideas there. That was pretty bad, but pretty interesting at the same time. Again, the movie was Cloud Atlas. I do encourage people to check it out. It is interesting. There's going to be no humans per se piloting planes full of people going on vacation in the Caribbean. No, that's a thing of the past. The humans in the cell cities are just slaves. And so, again, the only people that come and go from the planet are going to be non-terrestrial. Or, there could be humans that will be being transported off planet, maybe to go work in the mines in Mars or something. Life-threatening heat today in Puerto Rico, so hot that some meteorologists are astonished. Yeah, heat index as high as 115 to 125 today. What's going on? Yeah, the weather is insane. Yesterday we were having a storm front come in from the east. That never happens in this area. Our good buddy Joe, if you're listening, Joe in PA, his weather was coming straight down from Canada. It was chilly after sweating. Previously they were freezing. And the smoke from the fires, like all the fires in Canada, many people are noticing they all seem to pop up at one time. That's curious. And here's the other thing too. You will get those that say this is, and we're aware of, because we get so many people that say, well, Dutch says this, or this person says that. And, we're always hearing that. We check in with Dutch here and there, not much, maybe once or twice a year. But we understand his logic and his reasoning. It's not hard to follow. Yeah, absolutely. There is going to be big movement going on in the planet. But what is being done is it's initiating technologically. Yeah, there are things naturally in play. But see, what we're getting is, if you didn't have the technology in play, it wouldn't really affect people in this period in the average person's lifetime. It's the technology and the fact that the control system knows it's now or never for the control system to secure as many people as possible. So, they are doing everything they can to trigger the big earth changes. And so again, so much of what we see is related to certain instruments. Do you guys like harps? Just for one, but much more than just that. So yeah, there's technology in play. And of course, Mother Earth doesn't want to wipe us all out because we're all part of her.
There's a whole lot that the controllers have going on. I think there's becoming a point where there is so much pushback, they're going to need an external force to blame everything on. They're going to need an external force to do the work for them. And this modification here that they do, that's no secret. That's been around for a very long time. So even if it popped up, early 1960s, where you can read information on it, it was already advanced by the time we were reading about it then. Could you imagine how advanced it is now? And boy, oh boy, yesterday something hit me and I just did not feel right. It just, it's almost like there was a change in vibration in the air. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, so this article is talking about CEOs fear El Nino. We've had El Ninos for millennia. See how people are waking up? Now they're a threat to humanity, LOL. I wish they talk more about humanity's threat to humanity. Yeah. Again, the wake up is really, really happening as it's becoming really, really obvious what's going on. When we talked about this yesterday, and this was at 3.3 at 5 kilometers deep, it was mentioned that Dutch was talking about it was close to Deepwater Horizon. As you can see, where Deepwater Horizon is, just slightly to the left of the Mississippi, Alabama border. And so we can see, this is pretty close to that area. I think Dutch said it was something like 30 miles away. And yeah, Cindy was picking up that this had something to do with what they do, drill.
Yeah, with the drilling, the oil rigs, I just felt like they're doing a little too much. They're pushing their luck. It's not, things are not going very well, and I think people should be very cautious if they're out there working on those things right now.
Yeah, because part of the purpose is that they understand this is going to be sabotage when the big changes come in. By the way, there was a 4.2 down here in Mexico, and there is a curious little. We had a small earthquake. Now this quake over here in South Carolina is right under the little town of Elgin, and it's right by the Air Force base. Or I should say it's the Army base over in Columbia area. So that we feel, because we've seen them here from time to time, is related to blasting out tunnels. And then over here, coincidentally, I literally lived a mile from this location, and I did hear like massive, it sounded like massive movement. And, these are all very shallow for the most part. 0.1 kilometer, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 1.3, 1.6, 2.2. They are shallow. There is tunnels, and there's a lot going on over in this area. This is in the greater Asheville area as well. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time period that we are getting into, and we have another meteorite dropping fireball over the Netherlands last night. Always fun. Lots of these. These are pretty much a nightly occurrence. And then we have the big "We are not alone." The U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin, says whistleblower from government task force on UFOs. Some people are just putting this guy out to be an incredible hero. As you see, he's got all his little indoctrination stickers. And when we read the energy, the energy feels like what you would think. Once in the military, you're kind of always in the military. Even if you get out again, you wonder, nanu, ouch. You get the picture. But yeah, he has a very much a CIA, FBI air to him. He's being held. His name is David Charles Grush. He's 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, veteran of National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, National Reconnaissance Office, served as the Reconnaissance Office representative to the UAP Task Force from 2019 to 22 and from 2021 to 2022. He was the NGA's co-lead for UAP analysis and its representative to the task force. What does he say? He says that we have retrieved ships and parts of ships that are definitely not of human origin. So, and people have said, well, if you wanted confirmation, there you go. Now, of course, we have so many people that say, this means Project Bluebeam is right around the corner. Yeah, they do Project Bluebeam every night with the moon, basically. The moon is a fourth density object, and it is there. Yet what we see is really a holographic representation. What gets me kind of worked up is, and this is the original reference to a 10-hour video, talking about the evidence and the fact that there's extraterrestrial life that's been controlling this planet for thousands of years, because that evidence is overwhelming. You find it all across the globe, and you find it in ancient times, you find it in these times. And there's been so many people in very high positions that have been coming out and talking about it. Doesn't mean that they're all demons. That the original word demon was taken from daemon. And so, if we're still looking at it with a medieval viewpoint, we are as lost can be. You might as well be believing everything that the mainstream media is telling you. You might as well be trusting people like Megyn Kelly, and you could add to the whole list, because it's not ever been the case that we've been alone. We've always had extraterrestrial beings and interdimensional beings as well, beings that understand how to lower or raise their vibration frequency so that they can basically appear to be just as dense as some people are and also disappear. They understand how the universe works to a much higher degree than we certainly do here in this dark matrix. But here he is coming straight out and saying that we have definitely recovered objects and parts that are clearly of exotic origin, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown, based on vehicle morphologies and material science testing, and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. So some objects, have elements in it that are not found on this planet. Thus, they have to be from elsewhere. And, again, I understand it's a tiny minority that believes that you can't escape the dome. But yeah, absolutely. Life abounds. We're not bound here by the Van Allen belts. We're bound here simply because we are under the control of a very dark power grid. So when we talk about that Project Bluebeam fake alien invasion, I've had visions of something that would fit that bill since 1983. And, yet there will be a time, 2035 specifically, you will have Anunnaki representatives in the cell cities. They will be here. His job is to get you prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of work to do, and a lot of people are going to kind of gravitate toward him because they need from what they might call a reputable source proof that there are beings from other planets. And that information, again, wherever we go, we need to look and say, okay, this person has information. That's great. That's wonderful. Take in that information. Don't take it onto yourself, though, because the real information is what you want to get within. It's within you. But I think we're all so used to, since we go to preschool and kindergarten, looking for answers on the external part of ourselves, looking to the teacher to give us the right information. And this is how we're commonly brought up, instead of allowing ourselves as children to go out there and to explore the world in such a way where we don't have these limited belief systems. So for a lot of us, it is difficult to break out of that. But we're in a position where we can allow our children to have this self-exploration, and so that they can find the truth without always having to look to an external source. And I get it. It's natural to want to look at someone else's belief system and say, hey, that works for me, because maybe it feels good for you, and there's no judgment on that. But ultimately, during our path, as we walk along, we want to be able to go within and say, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, and some of these objects operate underwater because there are beings on Earth right now, they've been here the whole time, that are living underneath the oceans, and there's some inside the Earth itself. There are many beings on 4D here on Earth, and there are other beings on 5D. We're loaded with all different forms of life, and as we've alluded to and we've talked about and gotten into on Heart's Own, we're going to be seeing a lot of these, what you would call nature spirits, elemental beings, in our normal daily life, because we are coming into that same zone of resonance where it's just going to be a natural thing. And Cindy and I have had interactions and seen both with physical eyes and third eye, different beings from different densities, and some that are not from here. We had a lot of really interesting encounters out in the desert. A lot. I mean, it's busy over at Nellis Air Force Base. Every night there's beings coming in from elsewhere. Every single night. That is just a waylay station. If we want to talk about Project Bluebeam technology, when you look up into the skies, yes, they do spray in order to block certain objects out. People have thought about that, as well as control the weather and control frequencies, and to spread certain substances which end up inside of us. But there's also a hologram over the sky, because there are, in reality, other celestial objects out there that they don't want you seeing, that you would see if they didn't do the overlay. And that overlay is going to go bye-bye at a certain point in time, and we're going to be just amazed with what we can see in the sky that is close to us and has been here the whole time.
What really cracks me up is looking back into the school system and how the controllers prop us up as, the pinnacle of modern technology. It's like, we're it, guys. There's nothing else out there. There's no one else out there. This is it. Look what we have accomplished. Look what we have done, all on ourselves, by ourselves. And there's just so much more evidence that points that this is a spiral. This has happened over and over. Again, slightly different ways, like a kaleidoscope. You turn it a little bit and it changes a little bit, but still a spiral nonetheless. And we've done this so many times over and over, each time a little more soul growth, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, ultimately it is soul growth. And again, If you took the inverse of what they're telling us, you're usually going to be closer to the truth. Here you see mysterious species buried their dead and carved symbols 100,000 years before humans. Homo naledi, we've known about Homo naledi for a long time. Well, it seems like a long time. It's been 10 years, basically. But again, this is how they show it. No, this is, again, they want to make them look stupid and ape-like. But in many ways, all these other species, some of them are extraterrestrial. Absolutely. And we're going to do a video on some information that we got from another, ultimately, well, we should say partially terrestrial being that was really interesting, talking about what life is like on Earth when you're not in these dark ages. Because, think more of the cantina scene in Star Wars here on Earth. There's a lot of beings coming and going that will be openly doing so. And, it's going to blow people's minds. Some people might just have heart attacks because they're not going to be able to handle it. Again, you can't handle the truth. I know you guys can because you understand. Here's a reconstruction of the head. Yeah, no, think in different terms. Think in different terms. While your own government confirms it paid censors to silence you. So in fact, they take our tax dollars, which represents our work, in order to basically program us to suit their needs. Again, this is the insanity of this planet. The United States government readily admitted giving funding to the very businesses that abruptly defunded this one person's website back in 2021. They stand by their right to grant funds to censorship. Because, again, they're just simply a small cog in the wheel of the bigger picture, which expands way out beyond this particular planet and way out beyond even this density. This Larry Cook, I don't really know who this guy is, but he's on top of things, and he's shared a lot of good information. And, again, body toxin chart. There's arsenic, there's arsenic in chicken. There's arsenic in other foods as well. Personally, we've gotten from our own naturopath to avoid chicken unless you know exactly how that chicken has grown up. When you go back, certain technologies have been in place since around 2012 in chicken, and in pigs since 2015, and in cows since about 2021. And again, these technologies are altering of the normal human genome, and so I would be very, very aware of that. Aluminum, it's in the skies, all around us. It's also in food, water, and medications. It definitely will contribute to brain problems, bone problems, cadmium, chromium, mercury, and lead. Our whole society, we are just loaded with toxins. And the big reality is, you could always look at it like it's just corporate greed. They don't care what they do to us. Oh, they care what they do to you. No, don't doubt that.
Oh, they take a deep interest in how you turn out. It's important you turn out a specific way for them to reach their agenda. And it really, these are psychopaths that are seriously just wanting what they want, like spoiled children. They get their eyes targeted on something and they're not going to let go of that because it's what they want, and they're very powerful. They might be intelligent, but they have no wisdom. They're beings of a different sort. So you really need to turn the information on to yourself, and the quicker we can recognize what these beings are doing and their agenda, and grasp an idea of the nature of them. Because I think with so many of us, we look at things in a heart-centered point of view, especially when you're going through an awakening, you're exploring your emotions. But there is a type of being, and they don't have too much of emotion. They only have emotion if they don't get what they want. And then that's just anger, and it's out there, and we have a cognitive dissonance toward it because we think, how on earth could any other human do that to another human? Well, they do, and it's because they're being puppeted and various other reasons. but that's not your problem. Our problem is working in a way so that we can break ourselves free from them, and looking to nature to find our inspiration and find the beauty in life, and accessories. And the more we can blend with this beautiful planet, the less they can take away from us.
Yeah, so this little one is getting ready to build a new nest because maybe the old nest is endangered. It's too close to certain towers, or too near to the zombies, so to speak, and needs to find a new nest so they can have some security. And so that's what she is doing, instinctively getting ready. As should we. As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.